to the Shades of Entrepreneurship, where we interview entrepreneurs to inspire the future entrepreneur. I'll be your host, Mr. Gabriel Flores. So grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Guest is a renowned entrepreneur, author, and business coach with over 30 years of experience in scaling and exiting successful businesses. His impressive track record includes selling his last business for over $10 million within 49 months. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Financially Simple, Justin Goodbread. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shades of Entrepreneurship. This is your host, Gabriel Flores. I'm here with Justin Goodbread. Justin, how are we doing?
Man, I'm too blessed to be depressed, brother.
Too blessed to be depressed. Oh, I got to hear all about this. But first, before we get into Justin, because now Justin has a very extensive experience, over 30 years of experience scaling, exiting successful businesses. He's a renowned entrepreneur, an author, a business coach. So we're going to get into all of those. But first, Justin, go ahead and introduce yourself. Who is Justin Goodbread?
You know, Gabriel, the way I describe it is Justin Goodbread is just an old country boy born and raised on a dirt road in South Georgia and live on a gravel road in East Tennessee, man. Been blessed to be the oldest of two siblings from a mom and dad who just born country. You know, like the old country song says, just born in the sticks, raised in the South, but mom and dad trained me to be a business owner. And now for 30 years, I've been a successful business owner. As many would say, I've had 7 exits from 7, 8, and 9 figures. And now I am having a blast at coaching business owners, how they can radically change their lives for the rest of their lives. So that's who I am, man.
I love it. I love it. So let's kind of get into it. Let's talk about how mom and dad raised you. Give us a little bit of background. Where you mentioned you're from Georgia, now living on a gravel road in Tennessee. In fact, folks, we were earlier talking about how those Georgia Bulldogs are sitting pretty up there right next to the Oregon Ducks on the football. But before we get in all, let's not divert too quickly here now. So give us a little background. Tell us a bit about your upbringing and how did mom and pop get you to become an entrepreneur at such a young age?
Absolutely. So I was raised in Brunswick, Georgia, and literally on a dirt road, but my mom and dad were raised from dysfunctional families, let's call it. Very hard families. And they made a decision, Gabriel, like so many of us with our children, they made a decision that they wanted to change their family's trajectory for the rest of their lives. And so in their humble, ignorant ways of doing things, they started going to conferences with this company called Amway way back in the day, a multi-level marketing company, but that exposed them to people like Zig Ziglar and Les Brown and Og Mandino and Charlie Tremendous Jones and all these books. And my dad, who barely got out of high school, could barely write, just had this vision that, hey, I want more for my children than I have. My mom, who was college educated, said, well, my dad's name was Alan. We called him Pops. Well, she said, Pops, well, if that's what you want, I'll sacrifice my career as a nurse and come home and homeschool our children. So way back when homeschooling wasn't popular as it has been since COVID and some of the recent shifts in our demographics here in the United States, 40 years ago, they brought us home and started homeschooling us when I was about the 3rd grade. But our curriculum wasn't, math and literature and English, even though we had some of that. It was literally reading books like by Dave Ramsey, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And my very first book I ever read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This was my education. And at the age of 15, I found myself with my brother, who was 3 or 4 years younger than me. We found ourselves cutting grass. And this grass cutting business went from 2 boys in a truck with a dog to within 2 years, my brother and I were making more income than my mom, who was a full-time nurse, and my dad, who worked at Georgia Port Authority, each. Let me say it again. My brother and I each were making more income than my mom and dad combined. And we learned real quick, Gabriel, that business is a roadmap. It's a hard map, but it's a roadmap for financial freedom. And so that is what launched the journey into entrepreneurship.
Man, I love, in fact, you mentioned a few books like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've read that book as well. Got several different business books, that kind of really help you kind of narrow in on your focus and what is if you're trying to go into a specific vertical, folks, there are so many different books out there. Like I truly believe we're at a moment in time where we are very fortunate. As Justin mentioned, his mom was doing homeschooled. But now look, you can essentially give yourself your own education right now, and it's in the power of your pocket sometimes with inside your phone. You go to YouTube University and learn all of these things, or you can go to the shadesofe.com. You can check out the website, subscribe to our newsletter, and you'll have all this information as well. So Justin, tell us about that kind of transition. You mentioned you're starting a lawnmower business. Now, folks, I got to tell you, there's nothing cooler than starting out with doing a lawnmower business. That was my first little forte into the entrepreneurship world, pushing my dad's lawnmower around the community. Now, tell us about that transition. Now, how'd you go? What happened to the lawnmower business, and then where'd you go from there?
Yeah, so my wife came in my family. We were married in about 2002, and my wife is Filipino by national descent. And we came into South Georgia, and for the first time ever, Gabriel, I saw racism and the ugliness that happens with racism. I'd never experienced that. Mom and dad raised us to be very accepting of people, to be very loving of people. And I saw the harm that racism did from ignorant people, how it actually cut to my bride, my beautiful wife, cut her to the soul, man. And so we made a decision that, hey, I'm going to sell my landscape company, still in existence today. The person who bought it is doing a phenomenal job down the islands of South Georgia. But we said we're going to sell the business, and I'm going to relocate from South Georgia to Tennessee. Yes, I'm a bulldog up here in volunteer country. It does create some problems this time of year during football season. But I moved here to East Tennessee with this mindset that, look, I've already created a business one time. I'll do it again. And so in East Tennessee, I found myself being recruited in the financial services industry. The financial services industry did well for me. I became the CEO of a very, very prominent company, and quickly thereafter went through my first business divorce. Let's call it a lawsuit. It is not fun. Some of us have been there, and that launched into 7 years of what I call tribulation, Gabriel. We had some very hard times. During that 7 years of pain, not only was I dealing with a lawsuit, I was relaunching another business and sold that business. My wedding party, 3 of my men in my weddings party died. I had a family member commit suicide. And my pops, whom I love greatly, passed away unexpectedly. My dad, who's my hero. We had 3 miscarriages during that time period. It was a hard period of time. So what I often say is, as business owners, if you can imagine it, I have dealt with it. Whether it's from a personal level, whether it's from a business level, hardships, harassment claims, lawsuits, customer concentration, you name it, I've dealt with it. And it wasn't until an epiphany that happened to me on a mountaintop in West Virginia. I was about 28, and I was about 36 years old at this point, 36 years of age at this point. And I was talking with a client who said, "Goodbread, I'm broke." Now, when you look at this guy, like so many business owners, they look like they had it all together. He was taking the exotic trips. He had the beautiful car. He had the paid-for house. He had millions of dollars worth of equipment inside his lot that he used to do basic blue-collar type of work. And he said, "Goodbread, I'm broke." I'm like, come on, man. And I didn't really grasp the gravity of what he was saying. He was in his mid-50s, Gabriel, and all he had was a couple $100,000 in his bank account. Not a bad thing, except for this lifestyle, like so many of us in business have achieved. This lifestyle could not be sustained unless he figured out a way to get enough money inside of a bucket that was going to provide him income for the rest of his life outside of his business. And I can remember sitting on that mountaintop, sitting on a side by side, looking across the vista, Gabriel, and his name is Steve. I said, "Steve, there's got to be a way that you can bridge this gap. There's got to be a way that you can, as a business owner, rapidly accelerate your net worth, your business value, so that you can retire." He said, "Well, I want to do it in the next 7 years." Let's fast forward. What we're going to talk about and what I do now and what I learned is what led to his success, allowed him to achieve his goals, but it's what also led me to walk away from a $250,000 take-home pay, recurring revenue job, start a business up from scratch, and then within 49 months have experienced my own 8-figure exit. So I spent 20-something years, Gabriel, learning that business makes wealth. Yes, it provides good income, but unless we learn to build the asset, the business itself, where it's highly transferable, then like Steve, I might find myself, as so many business owners nationally, find themselves in a position where they have this very nice lifestyle, but they have nothing to support it once that business is gone.
Yeah, and that's a great point in regards to, I think, also the the operational piece, like you're mentioning, making sure you actually build a business that another organization wants or you're able to sell. And that kind of comes down to a lot of that operational piece, folks, like making sure you have your operations buttoned up, making sure you have your policies buttoned up. Because if somebody comes and opens up the books and is like interested in your organization, and I do like you're mentioning the residual revenue, right? The importance of creating a residual revenue. Well, again, folks, if you're starting a business and you create it from scratch and you really kind of make sure you put the work into it, the nuts and bolts, so that the operational piece, the policies, you make it so it's when somebody does come looking at it, because it sounds like, Justin, you mentioned you had a couple exits, which we're going to talk about here momentarily, but without having all those things buttoned up, and please, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, it kind of seems like in organizations or individuals, angels, investors, or whoever may not be as interested in your organization if all those things aren't really buttoned up. Is that correct?
I would take it a step further. Here's the statistic from the AMAA, the Academy of Mergers and Acquisitions Advisors, as well as the Exit Planning Institute, provide two shocking statistics. Here they are. For us as business owners, what we end up finding is that 80% of our net worth on average as a species is wrapped up in our business, this highly illiquid asset. But when the time comes for us to exit our business, whether that's to pass it down to our children, to a key employee, to an angel investor, VC firm, whatever it may be, when it comes time for us to exit our business out of desire or necessity, it's one of those two reasons, right? But whenever it comes time, only about, on the high side, 20% of business owners ever transition their company. That means that 80% of business owners who have 80% of their net worth tied up in their business will never capitalize or turn this business into capital. So the way I describe it to business owners is like you have this rental house that you're collecting rents off of, that's your income, but you can never sell the house. You don't own it. That's what the reality is. So in order for us to drive how valuable business is, we have to know that there are a couple of key components. And we'll dive deep into this as we go through the interview, but there are 8 key value drivers that drive the business's value. But there are 8 key areas of business that we as business owners often jack up. We don't understand them because we're really good at one thing. Most founders, most people who are entrepreneurs in nature, you know your product, you know your service, you're probably a phenomenal salesperson. Why? Because you had to get your business off the ground. If you're in business anyway, if for any length of time, especially past that catastrophic period of time, then you know your product, you know your service, you know how to communicate its value to your would-be customer. You're a salesperson, more than likely. You may be a dominant personality type, you may be a dreamer, you may be a CEO type, but more than likely you're shortcoming on, as you were mentioning, systems. That's one of the things. Operational efficiency. More than likely you're shortcoming on that. But as we build a business, everything has to be designed for our client. Now, when I say client in this conversation, I'm talking about the person who's going to come in and give you some money, shell some cash out to you, right? That's your client. Well, often though, we focus on our customer, the person who's buying our product and service, and we focus it on customer and we forget that somewhere down the line, a bank's going to have to finance this, a VC firm's going to have to finance this, an angel investor firm's going to have to finance this, and more than likely there's going to be somebody who's going to add a personal guarantee to write you a check. That is who we're building the business for. Man, and Gabriel, it wasn't until I was on that mountaintop in West Virginia and already had 3 exits underneath my belt that it clicked in my head. Just like that, I was like, holy crap. I've been building my businesses, these last 3 businesses, my landscape company, my dental consulting firm, my insurance-based business. I've been building them for the customer, but the customer's not going to write me the check. I have to shift my mindset and start building this business now for the client, the person that one day down the road in the future, when I don't even think it's going to happen, is going to look at this business and say, man, you've got an asset that I'm willing to sign my name on as a personal guarantee. I'm willing to put some money in your pocket so that I can take possession of this asset. Whenever that clicked in my head and I began backwards engineering on how to make that work, my life changed.
Folks, let me give you a great example of this because I love this conversation right now, Justin. I truly do. A good example of this is right now, folks, like some of you guys know, I started the nonprofit Latino Founders. We started it myself, Juan Barraza, and Edgar Navas. Our goal is to help scale 100 Latino businesses here in the Pacific Northwest to $1 million revenue in 5 years. So, Justin, I'm probably going to pick your brain, bring you on as a mentor. Now, one of the things we're doing right now, and it was very interesting. I was having a conversation with my wife about it last night. I'm putting together a cost analysis for these Pitch Latino events. So if we got in communities, we host an event, how much does it cost, right? So putting together this cost cost analysis. And then she stops me. She's like, okay, well, this is really good, but what's the value back to the institution, like the people that are going to actually sponsor the credit unions, the local business entities, right? I'm like, well, that's a great question. And so then I had to start to kind of think the cost analysis to make sure that the value back to the community is also stated, right? Bringing the entrepreneurs together to showcase that their community within their community, inviting the community to actually vote on the pitch competition, right? So they're the ones that actually vote on who the winner is. They're the ones, then also identifying the amount of unrestricted grant funding we are rewarding, right? To help them scale these businesses, right? And then also not only that, but making sure our executive director and our business accelerator manager are also involved. So post-production, they're still being mentored into this realm, right? It's not like we're just going to do this one event and walk away. And so to Justin's point, that's how we started to create the brand in our message. So when we go into communities and they are inquiring about the pitch competition, we now have a value for our customers, the entrepreneurs we help support, but also the funders, the people that are going to help actually push this over the finish line. So I really, really love that story that you brought up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It sounds like you guys amazing work there. And I love the drive and I love the calls.
Oh, yeah.
I wish more seasoned business owners would take an interest in the next generation of business owners, because we know so much and we've already got all the cuts and the bruises, man. We don't want our fellows to do that. The people following behind us to have the same experiences.
Exactly. And one of the things you mentioned, which I want to bring up too, is when you're thinking about exiting. And this is also, folks, again, Pacific Northwest, Oregon, we got a lot of farmers in our community that are, I think, 59, average farmer age about 59, yet they don't have an exit strategy. And a lot of their kids, they don't want to go into the farming area. So again, we're talking about exits. Two things you said is most individuals that exits for two reasons: desire or necessity. Talk about those two things and why it's important for entrepreneurs to begin to think about those two things.
Yeah. So let me lay the foundation with two statistics that are shocking. Okay. Right now, there's about $13 trillion in business value that should transition, that's able to be transitioned, that could move from the founder or the current owner to the next owner in the next 10 years, 13 trillion. Another study that came out said that there's roughly 11 million business owners right now who want to sell their companies. They may not have listed them yet, but they desire to sell them because of the Gen X and the baby boomer population. And roughly only 1 million of those businesses will transact. Okay, that's already a devastating number. Here's where it gets even crazy. Of those million that will transact, only 40,000 of those business owners that transact will be happy with the value. Okay, those should shock you as a business owner. So the reason why, to your root question, that it comes down to desire or necessity is, often we hear in real estate, for those of us who've been around a while, you hear three words: location, 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 right? When it comes to business, it's all about timing, timing, timing. So whenever I say either by desire or necessity, every business owner should desire to exit their business. Here's why I say that statement so emphatically, is because you have been entrusted and you take the honor and privilege to serve your customers, your team, your communities, your vendors, your charities, everything that's attached to that business. You have the honor and privilege to serve, and you love it. But there could be a point in your life where a death, a disability, discouragement, disagreement, some of these things could come up in your life that you least of all expected. And if your business has not been prepared for that exit, that whenever the timing lines up, that you're not going to capitalize on the max dollars. I'll give you a real life example for me. So here I started my company from scratch in December 17, 2017, walked away with $250,000 revenue and said, I know how to build a highly valuable business. I'm going to build this thing. My goal with my coach was a 6-year period. Here we are 3 years into this journey, and my wife gets sick during COVID. Like so many around the country, we didn't think anything major, but before long, we found her in the hospital on a health issue that was only documented 4 times at that point in the entire United States. Very, very wild thing. Now, before I go any further, she's fine today, perfectly healthy. God bless us. Okay, so let me just throw that one out there. But at this time, Gabriel, I'm laying in the hospital beside my wife, literally looking at a 12% success rate of her actually making it through this particular thing. And in that moment, I wasn't thinking about my business. In that moment, I was thinking about my wife. Now, during this time period where we were there for 16 weeks, my business grew 40% because I had built it to sell. I had built it to where it operate without me. Excuse me. I built it to operate without me. But at that particular point, I find myself beside my wife in the hospital saying, man, what's next? And she looks at me, Gabriel, and this is not Justin flexing. This is just real life, me being really authentic and vulnerable. She looked at me and she said, Justin, what's another $1 million going to do for us? And it wasn't to say that we're rich. By no means are we rich. But it was to say that, look, there's more to life than money. Whenever that she made that comment, I couldn't answer her. So I went to my coach, my business coach. I'm a firm believer in every business owner should have a business coach. And I went to my business coach and he said, Justin, if you had unlimited time and unlimited resources, not money, resources, what would you do tomorrow that you're not doing today? And I said, I would spend more time with my family. Now, in the light of my wife, I don't think she's going to live. My kids are now in their teens and I'm going, my goodness, where's the time gone? I've got my daughter at home for 2 more summers. I've got my kids, my boys at home for 4 more summers. And at that point, they're gone. And I'm now a dad and a business owner, but I feel like at that point, I wasted my entire life. And he said, Justin, I think you should sell your business. Now, timing. Okay, 3 timings. Number 1, I did not expect my wife to be sick. I did not expect to be faced with those questions. Financially, we were good. My business was a dream. I was making more money. I was taking 4 months off a year. And now I'm sitting here in my early 40s saying, wow, what would life be like if I had unlimited time, unlimited resources? What would I do? And I'm writing these things down, Gabriel. And I went to my coach. I said, okay, I'm going to sell it. And he tells me my value. My value, because I had built this thing with the end in mind, because I was preparing my life and this business for that ultimate exit that everybody should be doing. Because I was doing that, I said, I think my business is worth X. And he leaned back. For those of you who aren't watching, this is what I'm doing. I'm leaning back and he put his hands across and I folded his arms and he smirked. And he goes, hey, Goodbread, you passed that number 3 years ago, brother. And I went, oh, you're full of crap, man. I know what my business is worth. He goes, no, you don't, because what's happening as you've been building your business is your particular industry, the multiple accelerated. And right now, because you're best in class, because you have this thing built where it can run without you, you're probably going to get X. What ended up happening is I received an 8-figure exit, mostly cash, with not a lot of earnouts or holdbacks or clawbacks or all these crazy things that often happen in business, because I had built my business with the end in mind. So the reason why I say out of necessity, because life could happen to any of us at any time, or out of desire, I was faced with both. Did I have to sell my business? No, not really. But we didn't know what my wife was going to be like. If she had passed away, I would have been the dad with 3 kids. I would have been necessity to sell my business or relocate or do something drastically. Or because of timing, my stock value was far greater than it should have been. Man, it became a position where now I could sell it and move forward in the future. So that's why I couch it with necessity and timing.
And I think that's a great story for folks to, really kind of take in, because when you were talking about the necessity piece, a lot of the necessity occurs because of a life-changing event, right? Somebody, either your business partner passed away or you got injured or your wife's getting hurt, right? Those are the necessity things. Now, the desire piece, I want to kind of dig into a little bit more of that. Give me some actionable steps to make a business attractive to buyers, ensuring that the owner can achieve a successful and profitable exit.
Perfect.
What do we have to do?
I want people, sorry.
I said, what do we have to do? Like, what are entrepreneurs? What do I got to do?
Here's the 4 steps that I think every business owner should do. Number 1 is you should know your value today. What is the value of your company? Second thing is what's your value gap? Now, what a value gap is, if I compared your company to the exact same company, exact same revenue, exact same everything within your industry, is your company higher or lower than a best in class? See, whenever people look at the company value, they'll say, well, I'm producing $1 million in revenue, and so is Carrie over here, and Carrie's producing $1 million in value, so we should have the same value. That's not the case. See, underneath the company's value, there are things that hold it up. In fact, there's 256 points that I can measure to say, is this company highly valued, best in class, or lowest? Think about on a bell curve. For those of us seen a bell curve, we're talking about the top 5 percentile, best in class. So we need to know our value, and then we need to know our value gap. How does our company's value line up with the best in class businesses, all things being equal? Once we know that value gap, now we know how much equity we can close by enhancing those 256 points. So those 256 points are comprised of 8 areas of business. Every business, no matter what it is, has 8 areas. The first one is you should be doing planning. What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing for the next 90 days? What are you doing for the next year? What are you doing for the next 3 years, 5 years, et cetera? Everybody should be doing planning. on that topic. Whenever I'd set out and launched my firm in 2017, I actually built a pro forma, a forecasting pro forma, and I had so detailed and so well thought out, Gabriel, that whenever I got to the closing table, I brought it out and put it in front of the buyers and said, hey, by the way, my forecast going forward is going to hit the mark, and here's why. 4 years ago, I projected that I was going to be exactly where I'm at, and I'm $30,000 NOI above what I projected 4 years ago. And if I modify this right now, here's where this business should move over the next 4 years. It threw another 7 figures on my purchase price because of that planning component. So planning is important. Leadership. How are we teaching our team to operate without us? How are we removing ourselves from the epicenter of the business? Sales and marketing are the next two. They've got to work in conjunction with each other. Today, I see this on Facebook, on Instagram so often that people talk about marketing, or they talk about sales, but they've got to work in cohesiveness together so that your prospect will know what your ultimate customer experience is going to be. So that's the first four. The next four are your people. You have to have a team that's going to walk with you through the exit and stay past the exit. You've got to have a team of A players that people want to recruit away from your company. You've got to have top talent. The higher the talent, the higher the value. Your operation structure has to be so refined. That's number six. Number six is your operations. Your operation structure has to be so refined and so specific that you can see whenever something breaks. You as a business owner should literally be able to go to the beach, read an iPad, and know exactly where your business is performing this month, last month, and the next 90 days. You should be able to see that with KPIs, KRIs, performance indicator, key results indicators, and all these different measuring tools. And the last two are finance and risk management or legal. So your financials is making sure that you have audited financial statements as well as having proper cash flow management, having good CFO tech capabilities within your company, and the risk management, which is number 8. That is making sure that you're dealing with all your compliance things, whether that be state or industry specific, that you have your right insurances in place, you have your right legal documents in place, your contracts, your intellectual property. All these things are the 8 fundamental areas. Now, there's 256 points underneath those, okay? Within those 8 areas of your business, there are value drivers, things that kind of work in each of those areas. For example, recurring revenue. Recurring revenue is one of those 8 value drivers. You can see recurring revenue inside your planning. You can see recurring revenue in your risk management. You can see recurring revenue in your operations. You can see recurring revenue in each of those 8 areas. Another one is owner dependence. I can look at a company's financial records and tell you how dependent this business is on the owner by the way the financial records are set up. I could do that after seeing thousands of businesses. So owner dependence is one of those things. So there are 8 different areas for value that drive the 8 areas of business that ultimately point to moving the business value higher. So now to your question, now that we understand that, if we're talking to business owners today and we're like, okay, Justin, I hear you. I want to increase the value of my company. We already know where we're at in terms of we know our valuation. We know what the value gap is. And now it's time for us to start moving it. Here is the number one thing that will drive value to your business more than anything else. Business owners, get out of the way. Business owners, build a business that doesn't require you to do anything. Your team wants it. Your customers want it. Everybody wants it, including your future client. But we business owners are too dadgum smart. We know our stuff. We're tenacious. We're resilient. We're all those things that we know we are. And we're all our own stinking worst enemy, Gabriel. We're our own worst enemy in the fact that we know that we can grab the bull by the horns and we know we can wrestle it to the ground. We see a problem. We know we can fix it. In fact, I literally have business owners say, Justin, as long as I can put my hands on the steering wheel of the business and drive it, I'm good. And I'm like, no, you're not. If you put your hands on the steering wheel of the business, you just shot your value. So if you want to do something more than anything else, get yourself out of the business. Here's what I teach clients to do. Here's an example. Every day at the end of the day, on your drive home or from your walk to your office to your living room, whether it's home or wherever, get your phone out, turn on the recorder, and record 3 things that you did that day that you should be doing as an owner. And start compiling a list. Put it out there in ChatGPT, and you can now find out what type of job position will take on that role and then hire them. And whenever you hire them, yes, it's going to cost you some money. But whenever you hire them, you're going to free your time up so that you can go work on the things that you should be doing so that you can free up the next level and the next level and the next level. So there are 8 areas that we can drive value with, Gabriel. There's 8 areas of business, and there's 256 methods within that business that levers we can pull to actually make that value where a buyer is going to say, hey, I want to write you a check right now. Here you go.
I really love this. The first piece you mentioned was the sales and marketing piece and how it needs to be cohesive. It truly is, folks. Again, if you guys listen to this podcast, again, check it out, theshadesofE.com, subscribe to the newsletter, because this is some of the things I talk about constantly. The sales funnel, the marketing funnel, right? And how it needs to correlate. The awareness piece, that's a newsletter, right? That's a newsletter, getting awareness out there, right? And then you're trying to get engagement. So the engagement piece is the actual end user getting back to your website and starting to look at so you're trying to engage to conversion, right? So you're trying to get them to convert to, now they're on your website, they're looking at it, they're checking out your products or service, right? And then you want to get it to a purchase. So right now they purchase your item. Okay, boom. Now that you have them as a purchaser, now you want to create a loyal returning consumer, right? You can do that with some discounts, a loyalty program, a communication back, right? And at the end of the day, ask them like, hey, would love for you to actually put, write up a Google review online for us. And I'll give you 10%, off for your next thing, because then you can go and take that and put it on your website. In fact, this is a great segue, because again, one of the things I'm doing, Justin, right now, as I mentioned that nonprofit, I just got off a meeting this morning and we're talking about creating some sprints. We got our 501c3 about 7 months ago. So now we're like, okay, to Justin's point, I'm trying to create this so it's scalable nationally and internationally. So the first sprint, handbook for employees, right? Create a comprehensive employee handbook, right? HR policies, onboarding policies, what does all that look like, right? The second sprint, operational cost analysis. I want to know how much it is to run the business and how much do we need to continue to fundraise throughout an annual basis to stay manageable on that very frontline level, right? Not talking about scaling yet, just talking about saying we want to stay afloat, right? Again, we're 6 months in. Next one, product roadmap. To your point, how do we continue to improve what we're doing so we can create revenue drivers, right? What's the next stream of revenue? And then the last one, and again, to your point, is the website marketing design, creating a brand guideline, right? Making sure when we go out, I got the fonts, I got the colors, I got the logos. You want to use the brand. Okay, here's the template flyer that you use. You can input your information. Here's a presentation template. And the goal behind all this is very simple. I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. My goal with Latino founders is, folks, I've been in healthcare for over 22 years. I'm building the resume with healthcare, right? Latino founders, the first 30 years you build your resume, the last 30 years you build your legacy, right? So Latino founders is building out the legacy. However, I'm building it in a way, as Justin's really pointing at, I'm creating it and I'm building it out in a way with our board members. So in 15, 20 years, I can come back and I'm no longer the president or the president of the board or anything, but I can look back at it and still self-sustainable because we created all of these, the foundation, right? A foundation of a business that can continue to be managed by itself. In fact, Justin, you mentioned books. The Lazy CEO is another great book where it really talks about, creating processes that you can walk away from. So the business, because, Justin, you mentioned it perfectly, if you have both hands on the wheel, you can easily drive the business. Well, guess what, folks? Sometimes you have to pull over and pee. Who's going to take the wheel? Right. So you got to be ready for those moments as well. Now it's really, let's kind of talk about the marketing piece, because I think that's something that some folks kind of get a little skewed about, right? They think it's all like flyers. And tell us a little bit about your experience with marketing and how does being able to pivot in a rapidly changing market important?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question in light of value, because I think everything we do has to drive value. That's my ethos with the way my brain works.
I agree.
So
yep.
whenever we do an appraisal on the business, or we do evaluation, a benchmark, whatever you want to call on the business, we have these 256 points. Well, there may be, I think there's 30 or so of them underneath the marketing component, right? Whenever we make a decision, we're putting out the big rocks, as EOS often talks about, or as the list, as you're talking about, there's sprints, 90-day sprints, 30-day sprints. Whenever we're doing that, in order to drive value, we want to make sure that we're driving value, getting the biggest return on our time as we're moving around the sprints. So what I can illustrate is I can say, you know what? Let's say hypothetically, we do need to go out and create an HR manual. And if we do that, we're going to spend 16 hours of our time. It's going to cost us $1,000. I'm picking numbers out of thin air, right? We're going to 16 hours of our time, $1,000. But yet when we get this HR manual in place, even though it's needed, I'm not saying not to do it, that may only add $30,000 of value to our company. However, let's say we built a detailed marketing plan. And we identified our KPIs and our PIs, our key performance indicators, our performance indicators, and our key results indicators from this particular marketing plan. We nailed down our avatar. We nailed down our funneling, as you just said a while ago. We nail that down. If we build this thing out where it's fully vetted and everybody on our team understands it, if we did that, that may drive $400,000 of value. Yes, now it may take us 6 months to build this properly. It may take us time to test it, do some A/B testing, build all these various things in place. Marketing is one of those areas that many business owners, I hear this all the time, Gabriel. I'd love to hear if you hear the same thing. I hear this all the time. Justin, marketing doesn't work, especially small business owners. Marketing doesn't work. And I'm like, well, okay, wait a sec. Before you go any further, if marketing doesn't work, explain to me how Apple, the company that's in literally the jungles of Africa, why are they spending billions with a B, billions of dollars in marketing every year if marketing doesn't work? Could it be that you as a business owner don't understand marketing? You understand sales, you understand how to sell your service, but you don't understand the marketing aspect of it. What led to my 8-figure exit, friends, is that I was in the highest regulated industry in the world, the financial services industry, highest regulated. Because most financial advisors out there, are wealth managers, whatever title you want to have, they'll say marketing doesn't work because compliance is so arduous, it's so choking from the life of marketers. I was able to simply build a marketing funnel that wrote books. I wrote books, I had podcasts, I had videos, I had social media, I had lead magnets, I had all these funnels that built to where after a period of 36 months, I literally was receiving 10 to 12 highly qualified leads who had walked through my funnels per week. That is unheard of. That is ridiculous in the financial space. When I say high qualified, I'm talking about people that were worth millions of dollars that just wanted to work with somebody who got them. I literally had to turn away clients. I know we can't work with you. We're on a hold. No more clients right now. And we'd have people call us and they'd say, hey, Justin, we have $64 million of money. Would you manage it for us? We love you. We can't get to you because we're full. That is the benefit of marketing. Now, whenever I did my value growth analysis and I said, okay, I know my value, I know where it could be. In order for me to bridge that gap in my business was to focus on marketing more than sales and anything else. It's not always the case. There are some companies out there that need to focus on operations more than they do marketing or leadership or some other area. But regardless of where you're at as a business owner, marketing is one of those foundational 8 areas. And marketing is tied directly to all 8 value drivers. And if you build your marketing plan with the value drivers in mind, what's going to happen is you will reap what you sow. It's the law of nature. If you sow money into marketing, you're going to reap it. Now here's the rest of the law. You're not going to reap it whenever you want it. If I sow corn in the ground here in Tennessee, first of all, I'm not going to get okra. I'm going to get corn. Second of all, if I sow it in the spring, I'm not going to reap it in the spring. I'm going to reap it in the summertime. Right. It's going to reap later than I expected it to come. So I often tell people in business, you're going to spend money for a period of months, maybe a year, before you actually see the return that you expect. I had a pool company that they built swimming pools, very high-end swimming pools. And I said, look, we can drive the value of your company substantially up. Now for them, we had to create a recurring revenue model. We in the operations department, where they had to quit going from just building swimming pools to actually doing pool cleaning, where they had that recurring revenue model. But what I told them is, you're going to market and you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing, but you're not going to see a result for 18 months. And in 17 months, they finally broke even. All the money that they had spent, they finally broke even on. That's the instant gratification world that we as business owners often live in, or the shiny object syndrome, where we're going down the road and we get a good idea and we say, we're going to begin marketing, and all of a sudden, squirrel, something happens over here and we get off of marketing. So we cut it and we go apply it to hiring a new team member. Friends, if you're building value, marketing is one of those areas, one of the key 8 areas that you have to focus on. It's not any more important than anything else. If you build just a marketing business and don't have the other ones leveled, then you're going to have a marketing business and no one's going to pay you the highest value. But it has to be equally as important as your sales, as your finance, as your leadership, and everything else.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying, because again, that's kind of why we put the way we call it the product roadmap, but to your point, the value roadmap. Or what's the value not just to the individuals, the entrepreneurs we're helping to support, right, and scale their businesses, but what's the value to the communities that we're going into? What's the value to the philanthropists? And then each one of, so another thing about marketing, folks, is very interesting that, I'm really starting to dig into it, is the segmentation piece. Not every message is the same across every single channel, right? My alumni for the accelerator pitch competitions are going to get one communication versus the philanthropist is going to get a different conversation versus a volunteer versus somebody who attended, right? So each one of those are also going to be different. Now, however, you can also reutilize a lot of this content, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that Justin's team has a recording of this. And again, you can check it out on the shadesofe.com. Go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter. But I'm going to make sure his team has this information so they can use it if they want to do a publication. I reached out to Christian, a gentleman I work with photography. I'm like, hey, I'm doing the Oregon Entrepreneurship Award show. I'm hosting it. I need you to come take some recordings, some photos, so we can create some, some branding, some marketing as my own business consulting firm starts to, take off. So again, all of these pieces, I hope you guys have a piece of paper and a pencil out and scratching a bunch of these notes, because this is extremely valuable insight of how to really work through the business. Because as Justin mentioned, there's going to be moments of hardship, where you mentioned 7 years of going through the legal battles and dealing with those. It's those moments of kind of where you're really getting tested. Your character gets tested. You're going through these adverse moments. And it's how you actually come out of those moments defines you not only as a person sometimes, but also it's the passion that you have for what you're doing that's going to kind of propel you through those dark moments and those gloomy days that it's raining, because it rains a lot here in Oregon, folks. So, making sure you have that passion too is going to be exception or very important. Now, Justin, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs that might be thinking about going either becoming an entrepreneur or they currently have a business and they're looking at scale? So 2 different questions. First, we'll start with the up and coming entrepreneur advice.
Yeah. So if you're considering being a business owner, I'll say it this way. Number one, business ownership is not for everybody, but it's for a lot more people than what the statistics would say. Business ownership is super easy whenever you find what you love. Whenever you find, I go back to Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The very first lesson in that book is the rich don't work for money. And the reason why he says that is because many times business owners will find what they love. And when you find what you love, yes, you have to learn some of these other things, but you end up having a passion. Like I hope you can hear in my voice and Gabriel's voice that we really like what we do. After 30 years, man, I'm having a blast. Like I said, I'm greatly blessed and highly favored. I'm unbelievable right now. Unbelievable in my life, because it's found what I love. So if you're thinking about business ownership, give it a try, especially if you're young. When I say young, under the age of 30, when I say under the age of 30 is what happens if you fall flat on your face. No big deal. You still have the rest of your life to make up the difference. So might as well take a risk. Business ownership is also going to be one of the few ways that you can actually break through some of the economic barriers that many of us face. Gone are the days where you could go work 9 to 5, save your 20%, and expect to have the economic status that so many people desire. It's just not there anymore. But being a business owner and realizing that you are paid in proportion for the value that you create. Let me say it again. You are paid in proportion to the value that you create. You're not paid for what you know. You're not paid for who you are. You're not paid for how pretty you are, how you look, all these things. You're paid for the value you create. If you get that, friends, then business ownership is powerful. So that's what I would say to those who are considering business ownership. Now, for those of you who are business owners, congratulations. If you've even made it more than a year in business, you're automatically know that you're tenacious and resilient. You are my peeps. You're the brothers and sisters out there that I want to hang with, that I want to play golf with, or maybe crack a beer with. You're my people. That being said, I want you to think about, where are you going? Why are you going there? If you were faced with these same questions that my wife said, Justin, pick a dollar figure. Her number was $1 million. What's another dollar going to do for us? Answer that question first. It may radically change your life. It may not. But answer the question and then ask the second question. If you had unlimited time, none of us do, or had unlimited resources. Now, resources not necessarily means money. It could be talents, it could be connections, it could be gifts, it could be a number of different things. If you had unlimited time and unlimited resources, what would you do tomorrow that you're not doing today? And if you find yourself in business right now, handicapped or feel like you're locked in or caged in or handcuffed where you're not able to achieve that, then let's start making an exit plan. Doesn't mean you have to sell your business. It doesn't mean that you have to sell your business. What it will do, though, if you start building your business for exit, you're going to align your company's attractiveness with the buyer externally. And at some point, as it becomes more attractive, you begin stepping out of the epicenter of your business. You begin having the golden goose, as we all aspire to have. So if you're in this business ownership now, what do you want, man? Where are you going? Get crystal clear on where you're going. If you can do that, then it's backwards engineering what we need to do today to start making a proactive step. Now, for both of you, both the people who are not business owners and those who are business owners, do you realize in 5 years of your time, you could radically change your life? The next 60 months, from this point forward, today you hear this episode, for the next 60 months, you could radically change your life. You could change your life for the rest of your life. But it's going to step back to what do you want and how bad do you want it?
Yeah, folks, I tell this, I tell folks a lot of times, go out and share your idea. I don't hoard your ideas because at the end of the day, I think a lot of times people are, I can't tell anybody because then somebody's going to steal my idea. If somebody has that same idea, they're going to already be doing it. And if they're doing it, then they're doing it, then just do it better than them. I really try to push people to share their thoughts and ideas. Nobody's out there trying to steal your idea because they're not passionate the way you are passionate about. They're not going to build it the way you're going to build it. They're not going to provide the value that you're going to be able to provide.
Gabriel, even the reality is if you or I were in the exact same business, I'm holding a coffee cup up because my voice is hurting today, but if you and I were both in the exact same business of building cork bottom, I think it's a ceramic black coffee cups with Financially Simple on the side, the name of my company. If we're in the exact same business, we're still not in competition. The reality is your race has its own direction and you're gifted and you're equipped and your life experiences has prepared you for what you're going down. And my life experiences, my giftedness, everything is different. Even though we could be direct competitors, man, if I'm chasing you or you're chasing me, we're never going to end. There's no reward for us. So the reality is that each one of us are specially equipped. And there's already thousands of people out there within this ethos, seven something billion people in the world. There's somebody out there, thousands of people who are already willing to buy what you want to sell or what your giftedness is. And even if we're both building the same black coffee cups, our circle's not even the same. We're not in competition. So friends, if you even have a passion, if you have a desire, no matter what it is, take one step and then take the next step. And it's going to be hard, but get this. Yes, it's hard. Being a business owner is freaking hard. There's no other way around it. But so was walking when you first tried it as a toddler. And so was pick something. So was doing your first push-up, or so was driving the car for the first time, or so was playing that musical instrument. It was all hard until we did it.
Very true.
Same thing is true about business ownership. Friends, run your journey, run your race, use your skill sets, and just charge hell with a water pistol. Make it happen.
It's great that you're saying this because, again, one of the things I tell people when we did the pitch competition, we had one individual looking at their market. They're doing crema. They actually won the Portland pitch competition recently. And they're like, if we just get 1% of the market share, just 1% what market share, it was like something $358 million of revenue that they have. Again, folks, 1% of $1 billion is 10 million. So if you say, there's the market's already saturated, there's already too much, create a value that somebody sees a value, and even focus on a niche, right? Maybe focus on the golf industry or focus on the podcast industry or whatever. The riches are the niches, folks, but 1% of $1 billion is 10 million. That's, again, just having a small slice of that market share is still extremely valuable. The difference is you just kind of create a different value stream than everybody else. And again, to Justin's point, market the hell out of it. Make sure that your value proposition and your marketing align, and as well that your marketing tactics have a end goal. And so your sales team knows if you're implementing this specific marketing tactic, then this is your actual end goal. And you have KPIs, key performance indicators, to then say, hey, this is working or this not working, so you can pivot. Now, Justin, I really love this conversation. Now, folks that are interested, maybe, finding more about you, maybe learning more about your business, where can they go online? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so check out justingoodbread.com. And if you go to courses, we're currently running a special. So we have several different courses that we operate. One is called the Value Growth Academy. We're currently operating a special where you can step in and see what's in the Value Growth Academy for 5 days free of charge. And if you decide to stay, it's $97 a month. We're not talking a lot of money. Here's what's inside there is you're going to learn about the 8 key areas of business. You'll be able to get an estimated valuation on your business. But more than that, once a month, I'll hop on a live call and I'm teaching a very targeted matter. So for example, in our upcoming call in November of this year, 2024, I'm teaching how to hire best-in-class talent that will stay through a transition. How do you actually find those people? That's a number one request that we have. This last meeting we just had was, how do you build a marketing plan that drives value? I actually walked through my own marketing plan. See, I sold Financially Simple for 7 figures 3 years ago, and I bought it back for $1 in December. And when I bought it back for $1 in December, it had no revenue. The company who bought it destroyed it. Now, since December of last year, here we are now 9 months later, I've now generated over 6 figures in revenue following this marketing plan. It works. This is not hard, friends. So we teach the Value Growth Academy. And from there, you can learn about our other courses that are like our universities, a 12-week program. We have a mastering course. There's so much you can learn from. That's where I would target people. Or you're like, Goodbread, I'm starting a business. I'm not sure if I want to go there. Then go to Amazon, pick up my book, Your Baby's Ugly. Your Baby's Ugly was number 1 on the Wall Street Journal bestsellers list. It's number 56 on USA Today. It actually outlines the 8 areas of business, and it will, as my dad says, son, if I was a business owner, this kick me in my teeth. It is powerful. It's going to rock your world when you start thinking about how to build a best-in-class business that's highly transferable.
I love I'm going to grab that book because I love the title. I try not to, I hope I'm not offending anybody, but I always do encourage folks, you can't be afraid to kill your baby. When you're working in business, there's going to be times where you might have created the best solution that anybody has ever seen, yet you realize that it's a solution a problem that only you had. So there really is not a big market for it. So it's okay to pivot. It's okay to share your ideas, get out there and network. More importantly, subscribe to the Shades of Entrepreneurship by visiting theshadesofE.com. We will have Justin's contact information on the newsletter as well on the blog post. There'll be a transcription of this conversation. And for these Patreon fans, Patreon for $5 a month, you can actually receive this actual interview a week before the episode airs on Patreon. Go ahead and visit our page at theshadesofE.com. Justin, any last words before we leave?
Each of us are gifted the same amount of time in a day. And it's up to what we do that's going to change our lives for the rest of our life. Let me challenge everybody who's listening. You have it within you to reach whatever the success that you desire is. You have it already within you to drive your dreams forward. Let me just challenge you to take the next step. Get out there and make it happen, friends. And let me know about it when you do. I
love it. Challenge yourself to make this next step. Make innovation become your tradition, folks. So again, thanks you. Please visit theshadesofE.com. Go ahead and subscribe us. We're on the social sites, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Go ahead and again, I'll have Justin's contact information. So please subscribe to the newsletter by visiting theshadesofE.com. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you for tuning in to the Shades of Entrepreneurship. For more information, please follow the Shades of E on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or visit theshadesofE.com.